Life is complex, so is our mental health. It cannot be understood by diagnosis alone. Our philosophy is treat the person, not the mental illness. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Humanizing Mental Health. I'm Trent Akers.
And I'm Jeremy Alcorn.
And we have, of course, our wonderful Amy Alcorn with us too as well.
Hello, I'm one of the students at Synergy.
Hey, so I have to ask you guys, do you ever cry when you cut onions?
I literally cry every time I cut an onion. Like, sometimes it hurts so bad I can't open my eyes, and then I have to call my mom over and be like, can you cut the rest of this onion for me? And my eyes hurt really bad.
Okay, so goggles for you.
Yes.
And I haven't cried for a long time while I've been cutting onions.
No,
but I think I have a method. But
what's your method? I need to know.
I cut it up real fast.
Oh,
okay.
I'm a slow cutter.
Fair enough. And of course, because I don't prepare food, I don't cut onions, but I love the taste of them. And you guys, our listeners, may be wondering about why we're talking about onions today, because in therapy or in mental health, there's a lot of different theories out there, and it's kind of like how you the theory that you ascribe to or the theory that you use is kind of like cutting an onion. They all do, or they kind of all do the same thing, but they go at it in a slightly different manner. Wouldn't you say, Jer?
Yeah, as we were thinking about this episode, I had been thinking about the hundreds of different theoretical frameworks that are in counseling, and in a lot of ways, actually, it creates a fragmented process. Like if you see a physician, they have a pretty standard process of education. Not all of them know exactly everything. That's, of course, not possible. But there isn't competing theoretical positions that are guiding them. For me, with all those hundreds of frameworks that are out there, it's like there's a universal, natural process in our psyche. And each one of these seems to be kind of getting at that state of natural process in a slightly different way. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of all roads lead to Rome, and I think that's where the art of psychotherapy comes in, because it's not only about what works for the clinician, it's also what lines up with the client, too, as well.
Yeah, when you say art, it actually, since I'm an artist, I think there's so many different types of arts out there. There's like different types of mediums, different types of genres and tools that people use to create art. And it's the same thing with therapists too. They use different types of theories and modalities to be able to help their clients. Absolutely,
yeah. It almost makes me think of, like if you gave 5 different artists to paint a bowl of fruit, you would get 5 different pictures or 5 different perspectives, but the same fundamental things would be there. You'd see your apple, you'd see your banana, and you'd see your pear. But if you're a Doctor Who fan, you don't need pears. But any kudos, we are going to talk about 3 theories today, are we not, Amy?
I have written down, 3 theories.
Okay. So if you just want to randomize the one, or I don't know, we'll leave it up to you about which one we talk about first. Or do you want to do the introduction to them, like to the ones that we're going to be covering?
Yeah, so I chose some of the more common theories that are used, and I brought up some frequently asked questions on them, just because I know, like, for myself, before I went into this field, I didn't know any type of theories. Like, I feel like a lot of people, maybe when they go into therapy, they might not know what these different theories mean, and they don't necessarily have to know, but I feel like as myself, it's very helpful to know what they are. So one of the most common ones is cognitive behavioral theory.
All right.
That one definitely interests me, because that one is kind of about recognizing negative thought patterns and being able to question them and ask yourself, like, this is a thought that I have, but does that mean that it's true? And trying to come at things from a different angle.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of, whenever I explain CBT to a lot of clients, I look at it kind of like going into a fun house where there's a whole bunch of different mirrors, and where some of the mirrors can give you a really accurate representation, whereas others can be slightly distorted, and some can be really distorted. And where some of these mirrors at one point could have been really accurate for what you're experiencing, but over time, as they've been moved around or shifted, the reflection that they're giving is not as accurate or appropriate for that given situation. Wouldn't you agree, Jerry?
Yeah, totally. I've used that example myself. Yeah.
All right. So hit us with the first question.
What are some typical cognitive distortions, and how does CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy address them?
Okay, I'm sure you could probably rattle off all 15.
Mm-hmm.
But like some of the common ones that I think of all the time are like all or nothing thinking, black and white thinking, using your crystal ball. What are some other ones there?
Yeah, for sure. Like some of these have become a part of our just normal culture. You hear people say catastrophizing. Well, that is a cognitive distortion, making a mountain out of a molehill. Emotional reasoning, believing because I feel a certain way that it's true. And rather than being able to understand that my feelings are actually informing me, and that I need to line up my cognition with that to find out what is true. The double standard, the fact that I would treat other people much more compassionately than myself, and mind reading. So it's like, oh, I know this person is thinking about me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure we didn't cover all 15, but
No. And I mean, like, there's obviously you can go and look them up online, or you can get a lot of the great books that are out there that will outline this. CBT in a lot of ways is considered the gold standard for a lot of things. And the reason why that is not because it's better than any of these other theories. It's just that there's been the most research done by it. And it's the one that's most often referenced by the medical community. And as you said at the top of the episode, that they kind of have one standard way to approach things, and I think that they use that lens or that perspective when looking at psychotherapy as well.
Yeah, for sure. Like this came out from Aaron Beck, and during this time frame, some others really got excited about this, and so one of the pieces of research was done on a book called Feeling Good. What they did is they had university students that were requesting psychiatric mental health care on a waiting list, and they said, while you're on this waiting list, please read this book. And 69% of them did not need any further treatment, actually, when they went through that cognitive behavioral therapy book. So,
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is really cool.
So this is something that you brought up a little bit, Dad, but could you go further into how does CBT differentiate between thoughts, feelings, and behaviors?
Oh, hey, she asked you.
Sorry, I mean, you both can answer.
Well, I know, but you referenced him, and I mean, here's the thing: we said we weren't going to go over psychoanalytic here, so like we're not dealing with that sort of transference, and that would be a little bit weird there, Amy.
Okay, so for sure, one of the first things that you would do is help someone be able to distinguish those three different things. You would help them be able to distinguish between what are they thinking, what are they feeling, and how are they acting. So you set it in a triangle where, generally speaking, the input starts. So there's an event that happens in the world. The person has some specific automatic thoughts about that event. Then if you're thinking at that as the top of the triangle, then the left of the triangle would be emotion states. And so the thoughts move to emotions, and then the emotions on the right side of the triangle move to behavior. So an example would be someone's walking down the hallway in school, and there's a group of people talking and laughing. As they walk up to the group, then the group goes quiet. And so that's the activating event. What's the thought? They were talking about me. What's the emotion state then? Embarrassment or something similar to that. And the behavior, they actually walk away. They leave. What happens is that reinforces the original thought process, and they don't do anything to disturb or disrupt that pattern. So because it's a triangle, from thought to emotion to behavior, you would have like a large arrow that would move in that ring. But you could also have a small arrow that runs from thought to behavior to emotion to thinking, because it's not just a one-way street.
Absolutely, yeah. Usually when I haven't used the triangle in a while, I usually do the A plus B equals C with people, but same idea.
You know, that gets me thinking triangles are one of the strongest shapes in the universe.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So imagine like trying to undo that. That'd be difficult.
Yeah, that's why they try to simplify it and say, okay, we're just going to look at the automatic thought.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see how that cascades through the rest of the triangle.
Yeah. But, you know, and I'm not meaning to shoot holes here, you know, even though my family does own a lot of guns. But you know, like really when I like CBT, but a few things that I think that these are well-known criticisms is that it kind of reinforces Cartesian dualism, where it's only looking at thoughts, it's not looking at the body, and then two, it also really villainizes thoughts rather than you know, looking at, okay, where, especially on the surface, but if you dive a little bit more into it, like there are kernels of truth, like, because sometimes, you know, like when people are looking at things from a CBT lens, it's like, okay, then I just need to push away these negative thoughts rather than, okay, like let's engage with them, let's talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
But the more that you dig into CBT and a little bit further, they do that, but that's not always readily apparent.
Yeah, for sure. Like the acceptance paradox is one of those strategies. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which of course is where we would also dive into other theories that are related to CBT, like DBT and dialectical behavior therapy, which of course looks at two competing thoughts, and then acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT therapy, which kind of takes that and moves that a little bit further.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, for those who don't know what Cartesian dualism is,
Okay, so
it is the split between the mind and body, which is kind of like a cultural norm in Western society. That's how people see our body and mind as two separate things. However, I feel like, and you guys probably feel the same way, that's a pretty damaging idea.
Oh, yeah.
Because we are one being. Our mind and our body and our spirit and everything is all one.
For sure. And our interconnections to other people and the world are all about the whole of the individual.
Yeah. So you can't heal one without having to heal the other.
Absolutely.
Because it's all one thing.
Thank you. And thank you for being my asterisk, Amy.
Yeah. In fact, without running too far down a rabbit hole, it's weird because although I work in the mental health field, I would say actually everything is physical, because your thoughts are electronic impulses in your nervous system. Your emotions are electronic impulses in your nervous system, and so there is a biological foundation for all of those processes. But.
Absolutely. Neurons that fire together, wire together. Going on?
Yeah, so I was thinking we can move on to the next theory that we wrote down. So I gave Trent a list of different theories, and this is one that he chose, humanistic therapy.
Okay.
And you wanted to talk about Gestalt.
Ooh, good old Gestalt, Fritz Perls.
And Laura Perls.
And Laura Perls. Yeah, like, so, I'm trying to think of, like, the idea behind Gestalt, but basically it's the idea that what we want to do, and you can probably correct me a little bit more here, Jer, is that we want to basically have a conversation with our two competing thoughts, and even to put it on the hot seat, as it were, and really engage with it and find the truth behind it. So rather than saying, okay, that this is a wrong or a negative thought and to push it away, it's like, what can we do in order to externalize it? Because for a lot of us, what we will do, and it'll talk about it in a lot of other theories, is that if we externalize it, then we can get some distance from it and really understand it. Is that about right from your understanding of Gestalt?
Like the word Gestalt means whole. And so you have things in the foreground, things in the background. And the idea of it is that we're inconsistent with ourself, that we have an incongruity. So in a lot of ways, like we said at the top of this podcast, that this gets at things in a similar way as internal family systems does. That is, that the idea that you're not whole, and that the point of the therapy is to become whole, for sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay, hit us with the first question there, Amy.
Okay, so humanistic therapy also can include person-centered therapy. So the first question was, how does person-centered therapy foster a supportive therapeutic environment?
Well, I would say from there, like that's where you're looking at the Rogerian core conditions and all that jazz of unconditional positive regard and stuff like that, where we've talked about this on other episodes and using this similar analogy where the body really is going to heal itself. The bone is going to come back together. What we do as therapists, and from a humanistic perspective, is we provide the environment for them to have that growth and that reconnection where it knits together as best as it can, or in some cases even stronger.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this. So Carl Rogers, I think, has had a bigger impact in psychotherapy than almost anyone. Like the foundation of modern psychotherapy, all of the what they call micro skills, all of the foundations are simply person-centered therapy, which was developed by Carl Rogers. Now, for him, he would often have an appointment in which he would almost ask no questions at all. Once the conversation was going, he would reflect and reflect, see what was said, reflect, and bind it together in bigger and bigger reflections across the course of the appointment. And for me, that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to use any other methodology when I started. I wanted to just be like Carl Rogers.
Yeah, and I without going into any great detail, I was doing a couples counseling appointment, and it was so interesting because I felt like I was so in the Rogerian mode with the two of them, where I remember I turned to one person in the couple and I said, you're not connecting with your partner. That must be really lonely. And just and this was over the phone, you heard the audible gasp of just that reflection. Mm-hmm. They both didn't realize it, and the connection that was created after that was amazing. Mm-hmm. So you can't undervalue really good micro skills, and like you said, that good reflection. It's almost like throwing that small stone into the lake and the ripples that come up.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things we know now is that a large chunk of change occurs within the context of relationship. Now, this makes sense because a lot of our mental health concerns that actually develop in the context of relationship. So if relationship is what harmed our mental health, does it not make sense that relationship would be what heals our mental health?
Absolutely. And here we go. Now we're just circling back to interpersonal neurobiology, internal family systems. We're just going back through the whole onion.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, at least I'm not crying yet, so that's a good thing.
We'll get there.
Oh.
Come on. You're Jeremy Alcorn's daughter. If you didn't shed a few tears, I would be wondering, okay.
One lone tear.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The sexy cry, as they call it.
Okay. So, next question. How does Gestalt therapy use techniques such as role playing and empty chair work?
Okay, so okay. You go for this, man, because you've used this more than anybody else that I know.
Okay, so first of all, it's a philosophical difference. It's just Gestalt does not use techniques. Gestalt uses experiments.
So are we like his lab rats then?
So the idea is that we don't exactly know where this is going to go, but we're curious about it. And so we go, let's set up something that we're going to try. Mm-hmm. The hypothesis we have is that it's going to result in this thing, but we don't really know. Let's try it. And so it actually is a rather important difference when you're in the room with someone, because it changes the nature of that dynamic. It's not you doing something to them in terms of the technique. So a really good example is empty chair. So in the empty chair experiment, what you do is you have an individual and you have them partnered with an empty chair in front of them. You slide the chair so they're facing each other. The therapist purposefully disengages. They don't look at the person. They don't give any other cues, but they do lead them through this conversation. And it can happen in a variety of different ways in terms of what you're putting in the empty chair. You could be putting another part of themselves. You could say, we have your 6-year-old self that got injured, and that 6-year-old self now is sitting in that other chair. And then you lead them through this dialogue with their 6-year-old self, having them get up out of their chair, sit down in the empty chair, take the role of that 6-year-old self, speaking back to the empty chair, which is now their grown-up self. And you have them connecting in back and forth. It is a great overlap with internal family systems.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I would call that an unburdening. The only thing that I would say about that, and is that it's really brute forcing and going back, and doing that unburdening without talking to the protectors first, which is something that internal family systems.
Sure. Within that context, you could also, for example, have a parent that had passed away and there's unfinished business that the person never got to say. And so then the deceased parent is in the empty chair. And that deceased parent then, as they move back and forth with that chair, they get to have this dialogue that they wanted or needed to find closure. And I've seen it do really amazing things.
You even have talked about where you've done empty chair with couples, which I think is, again, lines up a lot with internal family systems.
Yeah, if I could speak to that a little bit.
How do you do that with couples?
Yeah. So what you would do is go, okay, so there's a couple, we'll say Jim and Sally for easy reference. Say, all right, Jim, I want you to just sit in the corner and I want you to be quiet for this period of time. Just be a fly on the wall. And then you set up the empty chair and Sally is sitting in her side and she's imagining Jim sit in the other side. So she's not speaking to him in the room. She's speaking to the empty chair, just from her perspective. Then, once again, I have them rotate back and forth as she talks about her experience with her taking the empty chair, which is her taking his perspective. He gets to sit in the room and listen to, oh, this is actually how she sees and thinks that I feel. And he gets to line up how accurate is that. From a place that there's a little bit of distance. And then in the following appointment, we would switch, where he's in the empty chair, she's the fly on the wall watching. And then all of a sudden, what happens is it disconnects the conflict between them and potentially gets an attuned connection back where they see how they understand each other and they see where they don't understand each other.
I'm curious with that at the top of the second appointment, because I've had this happen with a lot of couples where they talk in between. Before you do the second empty chair, do you find that you maybe take the first 5-10 minutes? I mean, of course, after the requisite chat to kind of say, what was your reflection after the last?
Yeah. Actually, usually I do that in the appointment before it ends. So, the one partner is doing the empty chair for half an hour.
Okay.
And then there's this debrief time afterwards where I'm asking about how accurate or close things were and kind of processing that and then letting them know the other person's going to do this next time.
I do have a question for you. When you said that it's more of an experiment rather than
a technique,
you said you don't exactly know what's going to happen, but you're just kind of experimenting with it. It kind of made me think, well, could that potentially be dangerous? Could that potentially cause harm? Because as therapists, people can cause therapists can cause harm.
Oh, for
and that's
sure.
what they're always trying to mitigate is not doing damage, but instead doing healing.
For sure. So you do have to have an idea of who that person is and where they're at in their process. You don't have someone come in on the very first appointment and be like, okay, hop into this chair. I'm going to bring this empty chair over here and we're going to jump into this. This would usually be after you've met a couple of times anyway.
Yeah, that's why they always talk about in the first session, your first role is to just form that relationship, because that's going to be the basis of everything.
Yeah.
You know, I just thought to myself there too, with the idea of an experiment, because you and I were talking, we've been talking about anti-oppressive practice. I'm wondering how, from your perspective, if you look at intervention versus experiment, how that lines up with anti-oppressive practice.
Intervention versus experiment?
Yeah. Like Gestalt not taking a different approach, that it's not a technique, that it is an experiment. How does that kind of line up with the idea of anti-oppressive practice?
I don't know. Like, my own thoughts on it, I kind of feel like if I were a client, I'd be like, what am I, like a lab rat? Like, I kind of like the technique. I feel like it's more sturdy.
But there again, too, does that not install the therapist as the expert versus with doing an experiment that's more power with?
Yeah. Let me back up a little bit and go say how this would usually be presented. So, the first, you have a couple of appointments with someone, and you're expressing to them, you know what? I think that there may be something that could be helpful here. That is, I'm wondering if we try an experiment to see if we can shake some of the way that you are feeling right now and maybe integrate things a little bit better. So there's this process that I could use with you in which we take an empty chair and we're going to have this 6-year-old you that had this bad experience. We're going to put that as if that's in the empty chair. And then what I'm going to do is I'll help you guide you through a conversation back with the 6-year-old self that you have. And we would do that in our next appointment. How do you feel about maybe participating in that?
I see. Yeah, okay. I can see what you meant now, Trent. I think I just kind of got confused for a moment.
No
Some
worries.
of this stuff is a little bit outside of my scope, and I'm still learning about it.
No worries. Well, hey, you're
I could see how like balancing out that power,
and the pallor too.
the pallor.
I mean, it has been a long winter, so we're pretty.
Yeah.
You're looking like a ghost right now, Amy.
I always look like a ghost. This is just my skin color.
Time to go to Mexico, folks.
Oh, no. I'll just turn red. But anyway, where's I going with this? My train of thought is gone.
If we have any listeners in sunnier parts of the world, please let us know if we can go into our recommendations for a podcast on location.
Invite us for a podcast down there. And no, you were talking about...
This is kind of getting off track, but like something that we talk about a lot in social work, at least, is trying to balance out power between like social worker and clients. Yeah. Because people who work in positions of power can easily use that.
Or not even realize or think that they're coming from a place of power.
So, like, some people, you go see the doctor and they tell you a condition you have and you're like, okay, you're the expert, I believe you. But when you come into therapy, people come with different approaches. Different therapists come with different approaches. But what we've learned in school is that you should try to balance out that power so that the client can be making their own decisions, because we come from a place where we want them to be making decisions for their life, not us. We're just the ones guiding them. We're the ones helping them find tools and resources.
Yeah, we're the lubrication on the hinge.
Yeah.
On with the show.
On with the show. The next theory is family systems therapy.
Oh, so with family systems therapy, is really quite interesting because it looks at the individual, really at like how they're acting and interacting with other people as basically where it's an indication of their place within a larger system and how they learn to interact. And when they're coming from one system to another, how their history within that system and how that individual system operated will then influence this new system. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to not only treat the individual, but treat the larger system and to look at how there may be power imbalances or different ways that people are communicating inside that may not quite line up. Again, this is very similar to internal family systems, but it's literally that this is the OG. This is the external family system. When usually I work from the internal family system.
Yeah. Like internal family systems took family systems process that are literally between people in family systems, and actually saw, wait a minute, individuals internally are functioning from what looks like a similar way. So,
yeah. And one of the major techniques that therapists can use with this is genograms, which is kind of really going back through and kind of charting the family system, how it all works, and how people interact with each other, and how there may be connections and then sometimes disconnections, and how that impacts things. Are they still teaching genograms?
Yes, I learned genograms at Block Week, and I had to write one up as an assignment.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I don't know. Do you very often use genograms?
I haven't in a long time. I used to actually often. So a genogram is a map of your family with you connected both with whoever you have below you in terms of your children and also your ancestors. Mm-hmm. And as you draw it out, then you make these notations for each person. What's their story? What did you know about them? What are the themes? And I have found it very helpful because, once again, you look at the family systems model. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have a whole family in front of you. You could have an individual in front of you, and you could be using a genogram for them to understand how patterns have moved through their family, and how maybe as they become aware of it, are they rebelling against some pattern? Are they imitating some pattern? Because either way, it means the pattern's still controlling you.
Absolutely. And again, I don't know why I'm talking about couples work a lot today, but I've used family systems a lot with couples work, like where you're tracking each individual's family, and then, okay, what are the stories or the narratives that they're bringing in to their time as a couple?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I'm not sure, maybe I was going to say something, but I think maybe I might be jumping ahead of other questions that may come.
Okay. Wow.
Okay, I'm just reading through them and trying to figure out which one would be the best to ask first.
So while you're doing that, one of the things I was thinking about is that family systems sees the system as an entity, sees the family as an entity. And so one of the great therapists in this realm, Salvador Minuchin, he would have a family come in when one person was depressed or one person was anxious or one person had an eating disorder, because he'd say that problem isn't just in the individual. The individual is actually a symptom carrier of the family. And so he'd treat the family as a whole.
Right. I'm trying to think, who was the therapist that used to sit down and do a family meal?
Oh, I don't know.
I'm trying to... Yeah.
Was it Murray Bowen?
I think it was Bowen, yeah, because he would literally sit down at like a supper table with them and like actually observe how everybody interacted over the meal.
One real quick thing about him, this was interesting. I remember, so Murray Bowen be at a family reunion. One of his aunts would be saying something about, one of his other uncles. And he'd be like, hold on a second here. Hey, Jim, Uncle Jim, come on over here. Aunt Sally has something she's got to say.
Oh, okay. Now you're probably leaning into Amy's
Could you
question.
imagine if we did that at your family reunion stuff? Oh.
Yeah, because okay,
Yeah, but the point was that don't talk about things with people that are not that isn't the person you have the concern with. Speak to the person directly, because what you'll do is you'll vent out your feelings. You'll have no reason to go address it with the person that that you have a problem with, and now you have created a triangle. You've brought this other third party into your relationship.
We all know how powerful triangles can be.
And it means your relationship won't get better.
absolutely, yeah. Well, and okay, but like, let's back that up there, because I think that it's important sometimes to seek advice or insight. We just don't want to say that you're just going to sit there and complain. Because if you're going to another person and say, okay, I've got a problem with Uncle Jim,
sure.
how can I manage this?
Sure.
I mean, because of course that's really kind of our job as therapists, is to help provide people with insight.
Sure. And I'm not saying to never talk to another person, but that was Bowen's position.
It kind of reminds me of, I don't even remember where I got this from, but this is kind of saying that when you're in the workplace, not necessarily with families, but when you're with coworkers, to not talk ill about other coworkers, or else that lowers morale, because what you say like goes around. So if you want to be seen as somebody who's like very like a good coworker, you actually want to be talking positively about people with other people instead of negatively.
Yeah. Like certainly and this is just my value set lines up a lot with what Bowen said. I don't want to talk to another person about a problem that I have with someone else. I want to speak directly to that individual, because I feel that it's my values feel like that it's disrespectful.
Yeah, I like the word that pops into my mind is you're being congruent. But I want to back up, because I think we were talking about triangulation, and maybe we need to explain it a little bit.
You guys are like touching all the questions and I haven't asked them yet.
Sorry. Okay. All right. Yeah.
I think you've already answered like 2 out of the 3 questions.
All right. So we're breaking up the system. All right.
Okay, here we go. Speaking of triangulation, that's a hard word to say. Can you explain the concepts of differentiation and triangulation in family systems theory?
Yeah. So that comes to what I was talking about before, is that rebel and or imitate pattern. If we're rebelling or imitating, we're still controlled by the pattern above us. It's a really weird word, differentiation. That is, I take what I learned, and I come to a place of understanding what is it that I connect to, and what do I not connect to, and how do I build my own rules.
Absolutely. In internal family systems, we would call that addressing a legacy burden. How much of this is mine, and how much of this do I want to give up? Or, as Sam Wilson was talking about if you guys remember the first Captain America movie, or second, sorry, like where he talks about when he's talking to the veterans, how much of this do you want to take with you, and how, or what did he say? How much of this do you want to keep in your backpack, and how much do you want to carry in a man purse? There, I had to think back to the exact quote.
Yeah, and then you also talk about triangulation, and that's what Bowen is talking about. Triangulation happening within families. Most often, it is a child that is triangulating parents, and that's not to say the child is bad. That's actually a state of nature. It's more than, in terms of that family system process, in that situation, it would be more the parents making sure that they connect and they line up with each other, so that they have a common front. And then in other ways, within adults in a family, then the triangulation happens where one person feels like, so-and-so really, I need to convince them of some fact. So I'm going to rally the troops. I'm going to get other people on my side so that we can strong arm this other family member into what I want.
Kind of like an us versus them thing.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. But I mean, if anything, that I would say when you do that, you're trying to approach them with logic, but really what you're going to be strengthening in more, and we're going back to CBT, is that they're going to be even more into their emotional reasoning, because now they're going to feel attacked.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Well, Do you guys want to hear the other questions?
Sure,
'Cause you've
sure.
already answered
No,
them.
but what was it? I'm
Yeah.
curious.
Because these are the other two questions. How does family systems therapy view individual behavior within the context of family dynamics?
Oh, yeah.
And what role does a therapist play in navigating family systems dynamics during therapy sessions?
Ooh, now that one we didn't really touch, but the idea
bit,
of the symptom carrier is, what we described in that one question about how do people, view individuals. Yeah, but like in terms of how does the therapist guide how was that worded again?
What role does a therapist play in navigating family systems dynamics?
I would say that the therapist is all about consciousness raising and insight. Is really what it comes down to, like whether or not when you're dealing with an individual, a couple, or a whole family, and just kind of going, like you're putting up the flag and going, hey, can I just pause for a moment here? Can we just notice what's going on? Or, hey, Jim, do you notice that, your aunt, your great aunt, left your great uncle, and how you're now playing out that same scenario now with your wife?
Yeah, for sure. And I think one of the things that's really important, this just leap back up to me. I say this all the time with couples, but it's also true of families. That is, when you're attending therapy as a couple, when you're attending therapy as a family, none of the individuals are the client. The relationships are the client. So the couple comes in and the relationship between them is your client. Family comes in, the relationship between the family members is your client.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then you don't necessarily have this us versus them thing because you're trying to work with all of them.
Absolutely. And I think like when you're looking at providing therapy to more than one individual, that's where we don't keep secrets. So if one individual comes to you and divulges something or has an individual session or whatever it is, then that is brought out into the larger group.
Yeah. That's one of the things you cover in your consent is an understanding that there's no back conversations with the therapist that are not open to be able to be discussed with everyone.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Or else you'll just fall into that triangulation yourself.
But something interesting that I learned at Block Week was we learned about family and group dynamics. And we're learning about that whole relationship thing. And there's many different groupings and relationships. The more people you have, the more complicated it gets. So for instance, if you have 3 people, A, B, and C, well, you've got a relationship between A and B. You've got a relationship between B and C. You've got a relationship between A and C. And you've got a relationship between A, B, and C. So you've got 4 relationships there.
Yeah.
And the more people you bring, the more and more relationships you have, and the more complicated it gets.
And you wonder why families are so dysfunctional.
Yeah. There's the old saying that it's not the individuals that are psychotic, it's the families.
Yeah. Yeah. This is interesting because I think we talked about this all the way back, maybe to one of our first episodes, but this reminds me of, oh man, now her name just went out of my head. People Making. She wrote People Making. Virginia Satir. Yeah, Virginia Satir. So one of the metaphors she uses is that when you're in a family, there's a piece of yarn that goes between you and every other family member. And there's a piece of yarn that goes from every other family member to every other family member. So when one person moves, it shakes the whole process. And we're constantly moving and shaking each other all the time.
It's interesting because when I was doing my practicum with Kathy Brotzel, we ended up doing a presentation to individuals that were foster parents, and we actually used that analogy with them, and we did the presentation, then we got everybody to get together, and the foster child was a balloon in the center, and we actually ran yarn between everybody, and what was it like to try and hold this child in there. Yeah, and that was really powerful.
Yeah.
But yeah, have we gone through all the questions, Amy?
Yes, those are all the questions.
All right. So, I don't know. How did we do on the Q&A?
I feel like you guys did pretty good. You passed.
All right. Thank you, teacher.
It didn't make me cry though, so maybe it wasn't a true pass.
Maybe we failed.
Yeah, maybe. Got some docked marks on that.
Yeah. So, I I don't know. What's your takeaway from this, Amy, as you watch Jeremy and I go back through this?
Honestly, when you're talking about the families thing, back in my mind, I was just thinking of that one Simpsons episode where they go to family therapy and they start shocking each other. Like, it's supposed to be this whole sympathy thing where, oh, you don't want to hurt each other, but instead they're just going crazy, pushing the button, shocking each other. And the whole time it was just Maggie the baby just pressing the button, and they think it's like another one of the family members and start just going crazy with revenge. Just yeah. I love The Simpsons.
That was the very first episode ever. Actually, they had a family therapy session.
I thought the first episode was the Christmas episode.
I think. And you might be right. I know it was season number 1 when they went to therapy together. Yeah.
I just love The
With
Simpsons
Dr.
because
Marvin Monroe.
because it's such a dysfunctional family, but they love each other in the end, and it's like that's just real life.
You're like, whoa, that's my family.
It's everyone's family.
Well, yeah, and I think that's the truth about like a lot of families. Like there is no perfectly functional family, and the ones that appear completely functional on the outside are maybe sometimes the most dysfunctional, because that would be where you have a lot of enmeshment and maybe even codependence, where it's like, don't talk about what's going on.
Yeah.
That reminds me of Encanto. You both have seen that movie, right?
I've never even heard of it.
I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
The new Disney movie? Okay, you guys have to watch it now. Watch it.
It's on Disney Plus?
It's so good.
Okay,
yeah.
so
It's
Well,
totally
that's
about
the one
family
where we
dynamics.
don't talk about Bruno, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just didn't remember what it's called. Yeah. Right. I know what you're talking about.
It's so good. Well, for anybody who doesn't know what it's about this family that has magical powers, and they all use their powers to help their family. They all have a role within their family, but the main character doesn't have any powers. She doesn't have any magical powers, so she has to figure out where she fits in the family. And I love it. It's good.
Yeah.
And the music is good.
You weren't supposed to tell people that we have magical powers, Amy.
Oops.
Yeah. So, the big thing that jumps out to me today is hopefully people got a little bit of an understanding of that there's a variety of different kind of therapies out there. And it actually becomes very important when someone is connecting into therapy, that maybe they ask their therapist what kind of theoretical orientation they come from, because different people are going to find that different things resonate with them, where one person may be looking for something that's very directive, such as a dialectical behavior therapy. Someone else may be looking for something that's very process oriented, that is, much more on the purely kind of Rogerian person-centered. So I would recommend that people, when they do go into therapy, that could be one of the things they talk about, is how the therapy usually works for that person.
Yeah,
that therapist.
Yeah, when you bring that up, because often now in my work with people, what I talk to them, or one of the first questions I ask them is about like if they've had a former therapist and what they found worked about that relationship. So then I'll base it off of that. Just going back over all of this, I was really reflecting and realizing how collectivist I actually am. Like where I will just, even though, I view people as parts, I will, I often switch between internal family systems, and CBT quite regularly. CBT being the last resort for me, but that's just me.
Yeah, for sure.
I really do like the clarification between internal family systems and family systems, because I think for like a long time I thought they were the same thing, because they both have family in it, and they're quite different.
Well, I
mean, they're similar, but they're two different things.
The execution of them is different.
Yeah.
They're kind of like cousins.
Yeah, I mean, that's where internal family systems came from, was family systems.
Yeah. Just a reminder to our listeners out there that if you're in the Medicine area, that we have several different events that always come up here at the Synergy Center, and to frequently check out our Facebook page. In fact, Amy, didn't you check out some events that went on over the last few days?
Yeah, they've had an event every day for like the past 3 days. So I've been going and been doing lots of different types of yoga. Last night we did a breath workshop. So
Holotropic breathing.
yeah, very heavy breathing where we could go on this kind of journey of enlightenment. It was like a workout, but I also like at the end of it, I felt lighter.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you're in the Medicine Hat area, and you're interested in yoga, holotropic breathing, or many of the other things that are offered here at the Synergy Center, feel free to pop on by.
Yeah, and there is one other thing. That is the Reiki master that is here with us in Medicine Hat, Annie Anderson. She does a variety of different things, but you can connect to her to do telehealth work. For the psychologists, social workers, we can't do that outside of our province, but anyone that's listening that is interested in things like emotion-focused tapping or some other the Reiki methodology, you could connect synergy.ca.
Excellent. Yeah. All right. And on that note, I'm Trent Akers.
And I'm Jeremy Alcorn.
See you next time.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope that this message has been as meaningful to you as it has been to us. If you're looking for help, you can find us on Facebook at Humanizing Mental Health.